He's one. Got him. Where's the res at?
Inside the next ring. Got that promotion. Another notch on the belt.
Hey, what's going on, Champ Squad? Vinsanity, back with another Apex Legends video. So now that we're a few months into Season 23, I figured I'd make my updated How to Main Bangalore guide. I'm not gonna lie, Bang has sort of fallen off this season. Not a lot of players are using her anymore, as everyone's been running support legends like Newcastle and Lifeline after they got pretty massive buffs at the start of the season. But I still think there is a strong place for Bangalore in the current meta, and really in any meta, because her kit is still very solid. I'm a longtime Bang main, now with almost 25,000 kills in her. Today I'll be covering my best tips for making the most out of her kit. Specifically, I'll be covering in depth how to make use of her tactical, passive, and ultimate abilities, and then providing my best overall Bang tips. Without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so first up we'll cover Bang Smoke Tactical. So Bang Smoke provides you and your team with on-the-go cover, but if you use it too often or in the wrong situation, it can actually cause more harm to your team than good. I'm going to cover what I think are the best use cases for Bang Smoke, and times where I think you should avoid using it. So one time I do highly recommend using Bang Smoke is after you finish off a team and you're looting their box. With how common third parties are in Apex Legends, you can never be sure that once you finish another team off, there isn't another team right around the corner. So when possible, I recommend keeping one smoke in reserve so that you can quickly smoke a box, hit a shield swap, without taking risk of damage. Smoking yourself and your teammates right after you finish a fight allows you to get a confident reset and a quick looting window before a third party is right on top of you. So another good situation for Bang Smoke is actually to use it more as an offensive option. If there's a team peeking down at you from high ground and you want to push them, or you want to rotate without taking a bunch of damage, shoot your smoke directly at them. Unfortunately, the smoke doesn't do 10 damage like it used to a few seasons back, but it still will obscure their view and disorient them quite a bit. Usually it causes the team to either back up or push forward out in the open. Either way, it kind of puts them in a situation where they have to make a decision, which can turn the fight in your favor and give you a window to move forward.
Like 3 kids down out there.
So another use for Bang Smokes that's really clutch is if you've overextended, you're out in the open, and you need some quick on-the-go cover for you and your team. However, I can't really emphasize enough, try not to sit in Bang Smoke. You know, it is kind of on-the-go cover, but it's not super reliable with the changes that have come to Bang Smoke the past few seasons. If the enemy team does push into your smoke, they'll see your outline and can pretty easily kill you. So if you're just sitting there vulnerably trying to pop a bat, you're basically just a sitting duck if the enemy team is close. So use the smoke to try to get you some cover, but keep rotating. Get behind some other cover and heal, or get behind a door. Don't just sit in the smoke and wait for people to push you. But the final and most important tip for Bang Smoke is to avoid panic smoking. A lot of Bang players will just spam their smoke as soon as they take any damage from an enemy team, even when it's unnecessary. Try to be aware of your surroundings and hug cover when possible so you don't need to always deploy smoke whenever you take some damage. If you panic smoke, you actually end up putting yourself and your team at a disadvantage. It can be pretty disorienting and not really serve any real purpose. It can also mess up your team chemistry if you panic smoke, as it'll disorient your team, but also reduce their accuracy because you don't get quite as high aim assist when you're in the smoke. So you smoke when you're out in the open and need some on-the-go cover, but be aware of your surroundings. Try to have an exit route, or be close enough to some cover that you don't always have to spam smoke every time you get hit. Alright, so next up, onto Bang's passive ability, her double time, which still remains, in my opinion, one of the very best passive abilities in the game. definitely top 3 if not the very best. As long as Bang has her double time passive, she'll still be at least an A tier legend in my books. This double time ability just gives her a pretty massive speed boost that can get you out of really slippery situations, especially when you pair with Bang's smoke. The most common time you'll use her passive is if you took some damage or overextended a bit. It will activate, and you can shoot a smoke and then use the speed boost from the passive to back off and reposition. While most people think of Bang's passive double time mostly as a defensive ability, which it is, it's really good for backing up and getting out of slippery situations, I also recommend using Bang's double time as an offensive option. You can really take advantage of the speed boost to get the jump on your enemy instead of just for an escape route. I often like to swing on an enemy after my double time is activated. Since you end up being really hard to track when you've got the speed boost, it allows you to get a really unexpected angle or jump on the enemy. So if you're turning behind a corner and your double time gets activated, sometimes I like to swing around the corner back onto the enemy with the speed boost. It's a surprising move that will get you a jump on your enemy. Not to mention, when you're in double time, you get pretty crazy strafe speed and movement, which makes you a tough target to hit. So finally, on to Bang's ultimate, which many consider the weakest part of her kit. I still think it's a very solid ability. The key is knowing which scenarios to use Bang's ultimate in that gives you a big edge in your fights. So I recommend using it in a few different scenarios. The first one being, when you get a first knock on an enemy team, I like to throw down the ult, especially if you got the knock from range, because it forces them to make a decision about whether they want to tank the ult and go for the res or leave their teammate out in the open stranded. So if you get the first knock or even deal a lot of damage on an enemy out in the open, it's a good time to throw Bang's ult, especially if it's, they're pretty stranded, because it forces them to make a decision about whether to back up or whether to tank your ult and pop a heal. Either way, it kind of changes the dynamic of the fight and can give you a big advantage. The other common scenario I definitely recommend using Bang's ultimate in is when you need to push a team that has high ground or some other advantageous position over you. You can throw Bang's ult and then shoot some smokes up at the enemy team that's above you and push behind it, giving your team a chance to win that spot, especially in endgame. Just make sure you time things right, as Bang's ult does take a few seconds to deploy, so make sure to wait for the first few rockets to drop, and then you can push right behind each row of rockets and push off the enemy team from the position you're trying to get. So the final main situation I recommend using Bang's ult is when 2 or more teams are fighting in the open and you're third partying the fight. Usually you can get a knock or 2 in these situations because you put both teams that are fighting in a difficult spot. Remember that Bang's ultimate artillery pattern deploys in several rows of rockets from front to back, so make sure you throw the ultimate in the appropriate direction so that it deploys properly, so you obstruct both teams that are in the third party, giving your team a big advantage. Alright, so a few bonus tips for those of you that stuck around this far in the vid. Number 1 is I really recommend using either SMGs or the Wingman with Bang. Shotguns also work. Really, any fast strafe weapons when paired with Bangalore's double time speed boost make her extremely difficult to hit and very elusive, and a really good 1v1 legend. Another Bang tip I have is to trick enemy teams by smoking out in one direction and then moving and hiding in another direction. Players generally assume that you're going to rotate in the direction of where you shoot your smoke, but you can actually mislead them by shooting your smoke in one direction and then hiding in another. The final last tip is to resist the urge to res and Bang smoke during close range engagements. A lot of times, if you try to res and Bang smoke, teams will just ape you and they can see you with the red outline that was added to Bang's kit a few seasons back, so you do need to be careful about sticking res in the smoke. I would really only do it from range, if possible. So that's going to wrap it for my Bang guide for Apex Legends Season 23. It really just comes down to knowing when to use Bang smoke and other abilities, and when you want to hold back and not just spam smoke in every situation. It really comes down to knowing when will the smoke provide your team with some sort of defensive or offensive benefit. Usually if you're under fire and you have a disadvantage in the gunfight, smoke can provide your team with on-the-go cover and give you a chance to reset the fight. Or if there's a team in better positioning, you can use the smoke to block their view and try to swing and get a new angle on them, giving you an opportunity to kind of turn the fight in your favor. Hope you enjoy the rest of the gameplay, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.
Double timing it.
That kid's 1. Got that kid too. I think I can push up. I've done enough damage to them.
Double timing it.
One's like back here somewhere.
Folks, enemies here.
Are you dumb?
Whole squad.
Enemy down. Throwing frag.
It's weak.
Shields.
Charging on my shields.
Reload.
Phased.